Perspective is a starter for positivity. I say starter because I'm thinking of yeast starters, because I've been making beer this week. But anyway, there's something, I've been thinking a lot lately, there's something that's been bothering me about positivity. Everybody everywhere is posting positive quotes and saying things like, you gotta stay positive, you gotta keep your head in a good lifted space before you can bring things to you in your life that you want, things that you need and things that you desire. You gotta stay positive, right? But you know what? We're not built to be positive all the time. And I know that I'm fortunate to have what I do have, but even I struggle to stay positive, especially right now with everything that's going on. I'm worrying about money. I'm worrying about getting my bills paid. I'm worrying about the election coming up in November and the division that's going on and all the anger that's swirling around in the world right now. I'm worried about things like that. I'm worried about my family. And I'm human. I feel myself falling into dark places all the time. And so that idea that you have to stay positive all the time messes you up. It messes me up. It burns me out. But there's a way that you can stay elevated and shift your perspective and keep yourself lifted. There is a way to keep that perspective up here so you can keep creating positivity. And it can keep rolling in. It snowballs. I know I refuse to keep myself in a state of depression and dark thoughts, because that's not where I want to be. That's not the person I want to be every day. I don't want to get myself stuck in that mode of thinking that everything is a downward spiral and everything and everybody is going to burn in hell. I know a woman, I'm going to call her Lucy, because I don't feel right about giving away her identity, so she's Lucy. Lucy started out believing in one blueprint for her whole life. She was young. She was in her early 20s. She got married. She believed in this blueprint that she wanted for her life and was supposed to go through certain steps, mainstream ideas of steps that you're supposed to go through in order to have your little married life and your white picket fence and your children. She wanted this. This was her thing. But life happened, and like it does to all of us, and 20 years later, she was getting a divorce. She was losing her little dream. She found herself jobless. She had been a housewife all her life for 20 years. And suddenly she's divorced and she doesn't have any money coming in anymore. And her husband, ex-husband, could afford to get a really good lawyer, so he ended up with everything and she ended up with nothing. I know people split everything in half, and I don't know how it worked for them, but she ended up with nothing. She didn't have anywhere to go, and she had 4 kids. Of course, she was in her late 40s by this time, and she just found herself in a downward spiral. She started getting really depressed. She was struggling financially, mentally. The breakup was nasty. They were playing head games with each other. She was going out and getting wasted and hanging out with all sorts of people that she would have normally never hung out with, people who were really discouraging and dark and depressive and putting her in a place where she really shouldn't have been. And she got to a point where she just woke up one day and realized, I lost myself, I lost my soul. I'm not the person that I used to be. I want that person back. Where is it? Where is she? As she told me, as she was playing head games with her ex-husband, I sold my soul to the devil for revenge. And it took this woman years to look around for inspiration and start to bring herself back up again, to find a way to come back to herself. And I don't know who told her to do this, but she heard it from somewhere. She got inspired by this one little tiny thing, and this one little tiny thing started bringing her back. It was a little trick. Now you got to realize, Lucy didn't feel sexy anymore, and she wanted to. She didn't feel like she had her soul anymore. She wanted it back. It's important to feel beautiful and sexy, especially after a divorce and getting involved with people who just bring you down all the time. She felt old, she felt worthless, worn out, worn down, and she wanted to look younger again, wanted to find her youth. And somebody had told her, if you smile, it takes 10 years off your face, right? The more you smile, the younger it makes you look. Now this seems like a teeny tiny little thing that don't amount to much. You're trying to stay positive, you're trying to pull yourself out of this very dark place. Smile is gonna make you feel younger. But she took that. And as selfish as it might sound to some people, she wanted to feel sexy again. She wanted to feel younger again. So she took that little tiny thing and she made herself start to smile a little bit every day. Again, that doesn't sound like much for most people, but it was tremendous for this woman. That little drive, that desire to want to look younger and feel sexier again, it was like she was taking a little rock, and throwing it into a pond, and she was making waves with it. It affected her. The more she did it, the more it opened up her face. At first she felt stupid. She felt silly for doing it. She didn't want to smile at herself in the mirror. She was looking at herself in the mirror saying, this is stupid. Why am I smiling? Everybody's a piece of shit. Excuse my French, but she was low. She was like, I've got nothing to smile about. There's nothing to smile about. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. All the time. Everything's bad. Everything's bad, and I can't get out of this depressive state, and why should I be smiling? But she did it every single day. She made herself do it until it started to feel less foreign to her. The smile became an everyday routine, and she began to feel it. She began to see the results of her face opening up. She noticed that it did make her a little more youthful, and those little subtle muscle groups that we don't notice started to pop out, and she started to look brighter, right? And the more this started to open up her face and make her look a little more approachable, the more people were attracted to her, and not the kind of people who want to be pissed off all the time and discourage you. She was attracting the kinds of people who were good for her life. And this just started snowballing, and suddenly she wasn't in that dark place anymore. This little tiny thing that she decided to do every single day brought her out and gave her the motivation to do better. And it turns out that one of these people that she had met talked her into going back to school again. So she went back to school. She kind of got her life back on track again. She found a job. She was a little more motivated. Her kids were happier because she was in a better mood. She was able to pull herself out of that funk. And it wasn't an overnight thing, and it had to have time to sink in, but it eventually pushed her towards new opportunities. She had a shift in perspective. She shifted her perspective. More opportunities approached her. Now, I know that's a weird example of what I'm talking about. It just touches the surface of shifting perspective. But the point I'm trying to make is that you can't just decide to be positive overnight. None of us can. It's not normal. It's not realistic. Life's got a lot of downward spirals. We're moving like this. There's no straight shot to happy. Happy might be over here. Happy might be over here a year later. Happy is not the same thing for everybody. We have to move around and curve and take detours and figure it out. We have to learn what makes us happy. We have to learn how to guide ourselves through life. Nobody knows how to do it, and there's no formula. But making yourself do one little thing every single day will make you start to lift up your thinking, and then something else will attach itself to that, and you'll keep snowballing with it. And if you keep elevating it a little bit at a time, this is how we shift perspective. We can't just preach vague, abstract messages of unity and positivity and then not close that with some kind of action of some kind. Because if we're just preaching, we're giving ourselves a whole lot of wiggle room so that we can actually forget to do anything. So we can just squirm away from anything that's uncomfortable. Action. One little action. One little action. Start small. Do it every single day. Build it. Grow it.